Namaskar, and welcome. Today, we're going to explore a really powerful philosophy, one that puts forward a pretty radical solution to some of the world's most stubborn problems. You know, things like inequality, division, and exploitation. It's this vision of a truly universal human family, and it all starts with a single profound idea.
This one sentence, this is the philosophical heart of the entire concept. So Paramapurusha here represents the ultimate consciousness. You could say the cosmic father. And Paramaprakriti is the operative principle or the cosmic mother. When you put them together, they frame the universe not as some collection of separate nations, but as one single shared home for a vast cosmic family.
So let's get into it. The source material kicks off with this really deep concept that the entire universe is just a thought projection of a single cosmic mind. Now, if that's the case, then think about it. Everything in it, from the ground we're standing on to the stars way up in the sky, it doesn't really belong to any one of us. It's a shared inheritance for all.
And this idea leads us straight to the principle of common patrimony. Basically, this means that all the wealth of the world is the collective property of every single living thing. From this viewpoint, no individual or group has some fundamental right to just claim exclusive ownership over resources that were meant for everyone.
Okay, so if everything is a shared inheritance, you gotta ask, where did we go so wrong? Well, the source offers a very, very direct diagnosis. It points the finger squarely at the structures we've built, and it starts with our economic system.
This brings us to a huge, foundational question that our modern world is built on. I mean, is the idea that a person can own a piece of the earth, or a factory, or a resource, is that an inherent, natural right? Or is it something else entirely? The source's answer here is, well, it's totally unequivocal. It argues that private ownership isn't a natural right at all, but a man-made system, and that it was designed by a few for their own benefit. It's a system that, frankly, creates a world where some can roll in luxury, while others who've been deprived of the basics literally starve.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. The source frames the desire for endless accumulation in a specific way. It says that the infinite longing of the human mind is totally natural. But when you misdirect that longing at finite material things, that's when it becomes a destructive psychic disease. It's an insensitivity to the needs of others in our shared family.
And this critique goes way beyond just economics. It looks at the social and political divisions that prop up all this inequality. The source argues that things like nationalism aren't these noble sentiments we think they are, but are actually tools of division that keep the human family broken and fragmented.
This comparison just lays it out so clearly. Nationalism, or really any ism, creates an in-group and an out-group. It's all about us versus them. The only true alternative, according to this philosophy, is universalism, an outlook that sees every single person as part of your own family, leaving absolutely no room for things like envy or violence. Okay, so the problems have been diagnosed. That's the easy part, right? But how in the world do you go about fixing a system that's so deeply embedded in everything we do? Well, the source lays out a very clear, multi-stage strategy for exactly that kind of transformation. It starts with idealism. You know, you appeal to people's better nature, but it's also really pragmatic. If persuasion just doesn't work, it calls for stronger measures and for creating pressure, making it impossible for exploitation to even happen. So the key takeaway here is that you neutralize the immediate threat first, and then you begin the long-term work of psychic and spiritual education to make sure the disease doesn't come back. So where does all this lead? Let's take a look at how these principles come together to form a concrete vision for a new global society. I mean, what would a world actually look like if it were based on common patrimony and universalism?
The economic vision is one of socialization, where all property is managed for the common good, mostly through decentralized cooperatives. In a system like this, science and mechanization are there to serve humanity. So, instead of a machine creating unemployment, a machine that doubles productivity would just cut working hours in half. That gives people more time for their own personal and spiritual growth.
So who leads this new kind of society? Well, not politicians as we know them today. The source proposes a whole new kind of leader, the sadvipra. This is someone who is deeply rooted in universal moral and spiritual principles, and whose main motivation is just selfless service. Now, the really crucial point here is that sadvipras are not some new ruling class. They're moral guardians.
Their role is to control the very nucleus of society, to fight relentlessly against injustice, and to make sure the system never ever falls back into exploitation, no matter which social group happens to be dominant at the time.
So, as we start to wrap this up, the philosophy moves from diagnosis and prescription to this incredibly powerful, unifying call. It's a challenge thrown down to every single person on this planet.
This is the clarion call. And yeah, it echoes historical slogans, but it completely reframes them with a purely universalist goal. This isn't about one class or one nation uniting against another. It's about all of humanity uniting as one single family to build a just and fair world.
And this just beautifully illustrates the ultimate goal. You see, it's not just a political or an economic revolution, it's a spiritual one. It's about a deep transformation of consciousness, where our minds, our hearts, and our dreams are all united in a shared, harmonious purpose.
And so, we're left with this final thought. In this vast, interconnected universe that the Source calls our shared home, what is our individual responsibility? What is our unique role to play in the well-being of our universal family? It's a pretty profound question to think about. Like the video and subscribe to the channel to continue getting similar content.